President Trump traveled to Norfolk, Virginia to tell the Navy, don't worry, you're all getting paid.
Despite the current Democrat-induced shutdown, we will get our service members every last penny. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Do not worry about it. It's all coming. It's coming. And even more because I'm supporting the across-the-board pay raises for every sailor and service member of the United States Armed Forces. But we have to take care of this little gnat that's on our shoulder called the Democrats. They want to give all of our money to illegal aliens that pour into the country. And, you know, I have a bigger heart than they do. But the problem is when you do that, they come in by the millions. Everybody wants that, so you can't do it.
Yeah, Donald Trump saying, look, don't worry, we're going to get you paid. I know there's a Democrat shutdown. I know that Schumer stopped putting money in your pocket because he's afraid he's going to get primaried by AOC. We understand what's going on, but not only are you all going to get the pay that you deserve, that you've earned, but we're going to get you a pay increase. The only problem is this little gnat called the Democrat. The Nats called the Democrats, the Demonats. I love that Donald Trump can turn the birthday celebration for the 250th anniversary of the U.S. Navy into a campaign speech for, well, I guess J.D. Vance or whoever's coming after him. But that's exactly what he did, and the Navy loved it. Of course, why wouldn't you? Here you finally have a commander-in-chief who appreciates you, who supports you, who's getting rid of all of the bad leadership and the woke and the DEI policies and allowing you to become what you're meant to be, the most lethal and strongest fighting force in the world, so you can fight and win wars so you don't have to fight and win wars. And Donald Trump said, God bless you. And of course, everyone there responded the way they always do when President Donald Trump comes to town.
God bless the United States Navy.
I mean, you can hear that from Norfolk, Virginia, all the way down to Miami yesterday was the chanting of the USA, USA. And of course, President Donald Trump would not leave Norfolk without giving them a special little President Trump YMCA dance. Young man, there's no need to feel down. I said, young man. And the crowd goes wild. Of course, it was an exciting weekend for President Donald Trump as he was supporting our military men and women, the fighting men and women, not just of the Navy, but of the entire military. And the reason he's out there supporting him is because, again, the Democrats are not, as the shutdown continues. And that was something that was on the mind of not just President Donald Trump and Republicans and Democrats, but men and women across the country, federal workers who will be furloughed or fired. And the reporters at the White House, when President Donald Trump and the First Lady returned from Norfolk, asked him the same question. And he said, look, there's no bones about it. The firings are already happening.
To begin firing federal employees during this government shutdown.
That's taking place right now, and it's all because of the Democrats. The Democrats are causing the loss of a lot of jobs with their it's a shutdown. It's their shutdown, not our shutdown. It's their shutdown.
Yeah, they've shut down the government, and as a result, they've caused the loss of a lot of jobs. And as a result, we've got to make some cuts. I mean, it's our job to keep the federal government open. It's the Democrats in the Senate to keep the government funded. And if they're not going to keep the government funded, it doesn't mean that Donald Trump's not going to do what he has to do. And that means having Kevin Hassett and Russ Vought go through the budget and make the cuts where the cuts need to be made. There's going to be firings at the federal level. They may even happen today. There's going to be shutdowns of entire departments, and that may begin happening today. And there's going to be pressure put on various different states, mostly blue states. They're going to lose funding for projects that we just can't afford anymore because the Democrats have shut down the Senate. And Jake Tapper had Kevin Hassett on whatever show he hosts. I don't even know what it's called. And he asked him about that. And Kevin Hassett, again, made no bones about it and said, yes, we are, of course, putting pressure on blue states, but that's how we're going to open the government back up.
Yet the Senate Democrats are marching in unison towards destruction, like lemmings off a hill. off a cliff. And so I think that in the end, it's natural to put more pressure on the states where the senators are being intransigent, so the senators themselves see the cost that they're imposing on the American people. I think that's completely logical.
Lemmings off a cliff. Senators are being intransigent. It's completely logical. Jake Tapper trying to say you're playing partisan politics with the funding. You're playing partisan politics with all of the cuts during the shutdown. And Kevin Hassett saying, look, we need these Democrats to vote to reopen the government. And if they're not feeling any pain, if they're not feeling any pressure, then they're not going to reopen the government. So we need to make sure that their states are squeezed. They need to hear from their constituents, and they need to stop playing Schumer's game. They need to open the government back up and then negotiate with the Republicans in good faith on whatever healthcare issues they seem to have. But that's how the government shutdown works. Now, on Friday afternoon, there was another vote to reopen the government. There were two plans in place: the Democrats' plan, which funds illegal immigrants with your tax dollars, and the Republicans' plan, which basically just funds the government and makes no drastic partisan changes to any policy. And they both failed by the same margin. There will be another vote later today, this afternoon. The Senate will reconvene. There will be a vote again to either open up the government with one of the two plans or keep it shut down. And as it stands today, as we look forward, it appears that the government shutdown will continue. And then Donald Trump will really ramp up the pressure. He's going to really, going to put his thumb down and and apply some pressure to these Democrat politicians and, of course, to the federal government. And Donald Trump, look, he ran on smaller government. So this is exactly in the wheelhouse of what he was hired to do by the American people. He ran on Doge. We all remember Elon Musk running around with chainsaws saying we're going to shut down this government and shut down that agency. And we all know that Linda McMahon is fully aware that she will be the last Secretary of Education because the Education Department will be shut down. And those could come as quickly as this week. And it's something that that nobody can stop because, well, the Democrats could stop it, but they're not going to. Speaking of stopping things, Donald Trump was also asked about this plan that Hamas has now agreed to for a ceasefire and peace in the Middle East between Hamas and Israel.
Deadline for Hamas to release the hostages.
Yeah, we're going to do very quickly. We had some very good meetings. The countries of the world, a lot of the countries surrounding Israel, frankly, Muslim, Arab, and many others have had great meetings with Hamas, and it looks like it's working. So we'll wait for a little while, see how it all turns out.
When will the administration begin firing?
I think it'll work very, very quickly. I think it's going to go very quickly. The meetings seem to be very good. We'll find out. We'll let you know soon.
Yeah, and that is the Donald Trump saying, look, we're going to release these hostages very, very quickly. We got to get it done quickly. This is a great deal. In fact, he said this is a great deal, not just for Hamas and for all the countries surrounding Israel, but for Israel, too. And that's why everybody seems to be on board.
Well, it's a great deal for Israel, and it's a great deal for everybody. And you want to get your hostages back, right? You want them back or do you not want them back? And it's a great deal for Israel. It's a great deal for the entire Arab world, Muslim world, and world. So we're very happy about it.
When do you think the hostages will start being freed?
I think very soon. They're in negotiation right now as we speak. They've started the negotiation. It'll last a couple of days. We'll see how it turns out, but I'm hearing it's going very well.
I like how Donald Trump asked the report, you want the hostages back, don't you? Let's start asking you people some questions because you asked the most ridiculous questions. But Marco Rubio, who's been one of the most solid secretaries of state we've ever had in this country, was on the Sunday shows once again where he dominates. And he was asked about this deal and he was asked about the release of the hostages. And he said, this is the closest we've ever been to lasting peace in the Middle East. And of course, it only happened under the guidance of President Donald Trump.
This is the closest we have been. This is the most progress we have seen with regards to ending this conflict and getting these hostages released in a very long time. And it all happened because President Trump put that on the table and built this international coalition, including Arab and Islamic countries. Without him putting that together, we wouldn't even be having this conversation right now.
Yeah, and that is something that is 100% true as we get closer and closer, edge closer and closer to the 2-year anniversary of the October 7th attack in Israel, where there have been hostages being held for almost 2 years. It is the closest we've ever been, and it is because President Donald Trump has been able to negotiate with with agencies or organizations that have never negotiated in thousands of years. One of them is, of course, Hamas.
We all have to be clear-eyed about this, right? There are conditions that have to be met here. If 2 weeks from now, a week from now, whatever, it's clear that the hostages aren't going to be released and they're playing games, then I think the president stated what our position is going to be. He did so in a Truth Social post on Friday morning, giving them a 6 p.m. deadline of Sunday to accept. And I thought that it was telling that within hours of that, we get this letter from Hamas basically saying, we agree to the framework the president's put forward. Let's have our mediators negotiate the logistics for the release of the hostages. And we need to enter into further talks about the rest of the deal. So no one here is claiming this is done. What we are claiming is that we have moved so we are at a much better place today than we were 7 days ago. A lot could happen wrong here, but so much could happen right if we can get this done. And we're very dedicated to making that happen. And look, it's not just the United States, although this is an initiative that President Trump deserves a tremendous amount of credit for, but it's Qatar, it's the UAE, it's Israel who's been involved in these talks, it's Saudi Arabia, it's Indonesia, it's countries like Egypt and Jordan and other countries from the region, all of whom are pushing hard and are behind this effort. We all want to see it get done, and I think that collective pressure can make this happen. I'm optimistic it will happen, but it won't be easy.
Yeah, but of course, it's Hamas, so there's no guarantees.
No one here can tell you this is 100% guaranteed. We are dealing at the end of the day with Hamas. This is the group that on October 7th, 2 years ago, came in and basically butchered babies and teenage girls at a music concert and took hostages and did horrific atrocities. That's who we're dealing with here, okay? We're not dealing with a political movement. We are dealing with killers and savages and terrorists. That's who we're dealing with. That said, what gives you hope here is that at least there now is a framework for how all this can come to an end and those hostages can be released. What gives you hope here is the fact that for the first time in this entire endeavor, you have the United Arab Emirates, you have Qatar, you have Saudi Arabia, you have Turkey, you have Egypt, you have Jordan, you have Indonesia, you have all these countries, the European countries, all lined up behind a plan and putting a tremendous amount of pressure to make it happen.
And that is something, again, that President Donald Trump has been able to piece together like a puzzle. And, his trips to the Mideast, traveling around to various different countries. He was in Abu Dhabi. He was in Dubai. He was in all of these other fantastic places, putting together these deals, not just economic deals, but peace deals for the region, because having an economic deal with a region that is about to explode isn't necessarily in anyone's best interest. If you're going to have an economic deal with these regions, you want to make sure that the economies will be secure. And peace in peace in the Middle East with the help of Europe and all these other Arab nations is the way to do it. Donald Trump knows that. Marco Rubio knows that. It seems like the media is the only people that seem a little confused and twisted by it. But it's not just foreign policy where Donald Trump dominates. It's also domestic policy. And he was asked about Portland and Chicago and all of these places where he's sending troops. And he's saying, look, it's necessary. My job is to keep Americans safe. And these are the least safe areas in the entire world.
I really believe he's afraid for his life somehow. When you can have 40 or 50 people killed over the last couple of months, hundreds of people wounded, there's no place like that in the world. Hundreds of people wounded, 50, 55 people shot and killed. And Pritzker gets up and says what a wonderful place it is. They need help. Washington, D.C. is now a safe place. You're not going to get mugged or hit. You're not going to get raped. You're not going to get anything. Washington, D.C. went from a hellhole to a safe place. I love the way you nod. Is it true, though? A lot of the people right here were mugged. Reporters. And you know what? You're safe now. Nothing. We've had no crime. It took 12 days to solve the problem, 12 days. And we're going to do that in Chicago. We're going to do that in Portland. Now, Portland's different. That's a bunch of paid insurrectionists. But you have a lot of paid people in Chicago, too. I believe the politicians are under threat because there's no way somebody can say that things are wonderful in Chicago. Almost 55, I think it was 55 people over a short period of time have been murdered in Chicago, have been shot. 222 people over a short period of time have been hit, have been wounded, not died. But 55 people died over a short period of time. You're telling me there's no city in the world like that. We're going to straighten it out. And I think that Pritzker, he's not a stupid person. I think that Pritzker's afraid for his life.
Yeah, President Donald Trump saying J.B. Pritzker must be afraid for his life because why else wouldn't he want our help in Chicago? Portland, you've got paid insurrectionists, which are just tearing up that city and destroying ICE and making it horrible for the rest of the public. And Kristi Noem was on Fox and Friends over the weekend, and she said, look, we need to invite these governors who are standing in our way. We need to invite these mayors who are standing in our way. We need to invite all of these elected officials who were elected to protect their constituents and who are doing the exact opposite. We need to elect them down to, or invite them down to meet the ICE agents and see that these are good-hearted people who just want to restore law and order to their communities. And also, let's take a look at the protesters and realize these are horrible people who have no idea what they're doing and also do not care about anybody but themselves and the illegal immigrants.
I've encouraged the governor of Oregon and of Illinois and that attorney general should go down and spend some time with our ICE officers and with our Border Patrol officers and encounter the protesters that they do, because these individuals are shouting hateful things at them, threatening their families, putting their hands on them, and acts of violence are occurring on a regular basis. So they're just sitting far away in safe facilities, some of them with protective detail, which is a very different situation than trying to clean up the streets and help protect the families and the victims of these criminals that have been roaming for far too long.
And that's why our military will continue to go into these places that are hellholes, that are war-torn, and they will make them safe, just like Donald Trump said with Washington, D.C. And it doesn't matter if it's Chicago or L.A. or Portland. It doesn't matter if the mayors or the governors decide that they want peace in those places. It doesn't matter if the judges say it's illegal or legal. President Donald Trump is the commander-in-chief of the American military, not activist judges in California or anywhere else. The other thing, the one last thing that the Democrats, especially in the media, are concerned with are these drug boats coming out of Venezuela. Not only are they trying to protect illegal immigrants here in the United States of America, but they're also upset about the attacks on illegal terrorist drug runners coming out of Venezuela. After the latest attack that was publicized and declassified by SecWar Hegseth, Marco Rubio was asked about that, and he said, look, we're not just blowing boats out of the water willy-nilly. We're the United States military. We kind of know what we're doing.
Yeah, I can tell you this. The Department of Defense doesn't take this lightly. There are many boats running through that region, some of which we suspect may have drugs on them, and they don't take shots at them because they need to know with 100% certainty. I can't tell you the tactics or how it comes about in terms of how we gather the intelligence, but suffice it to say the Department of War has tremendous confidence in the way they are gathering information. They know who's on those boats. They know what those boats are doing. And I would ask people for some common sense, okay? What is a boat doing 15 miles into international waters with 450 engines on the back of it, no fishing rods, clear markings of drugs on those boats? We know who these boats are. We've known who these boats are for a very long time. In the past, there's been efforts to interdict them. Now the effort is to stop them. They are headed towards the United States through a logistics chain they've created in the Caribbean, and that needs to stop. For the first time in our history, the U.S. military is operating in our region, in our hemisphere, against these traffickers of poison who are ultimately winding up in our streets, contributing to crime in our streets, not to mention the death of Americans. So they have the highest confidence in this because of the work that goes into this, because of the tremendous amount of caution they're taking in deciding who to strike and who not to strike. And by the way, it's already had a dramatic impact. The number of boats coming out running drugs has dramatically decreased in the last few weeks. That alone has already had an impact. There are drugs that are not in the streets of the United States right now because of what President Trump and his administration is doing.
Yeah, they're at the bottom of the sea, under the sea, as that crab from as the crab from The Little Mermaid would say. Listen, we've got so much more to cover. There's so much more news popping up every single day. And of course, we will be covering that vote later today that's destined to fail. And we'll cover whatever layoffs and shutdowns President Donald Trump and Russ Vought and Kevin Hassett have in store for any government agency or government worker in the wake of these shutdowns. We're going to cover all of that and more on our second daily podcast, Mark Kaye Saves the Republic. Every single day we go live at 1 p.m. Eastern, or you can download it and listen at your leisure. Best way to find out where you can go for Mark Kaye Saves the Republic is to visit markkaye.com, MarkKaye.com. Click the big red button that says, I want the podcast. Download, subscribe, listen, and enjoy.